What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So at number 3, I have none other than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the third greatest playoff performer in the history of the game. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the most unstoppable shot in the history of the game, the skyhook. He played for a very, very long time, from just outside of the Bill Russell era until deep into the Michael Jordan era of basketball. It's a very, very long time that this man played basketball. We saw him go from being a gangly, huge afroed 22-year-old to a bald, goggled, goatee version of himself at age 42. He played in 237 contests, which for many, many years was the most playoff games ever for an individual player. Derek Fisher broke this record several years ago. I believe he at the time was a member of the Oklahoma City Thunder. His mark of 259 playoffs uh, games was broken by LeBron James, who now has the record at 266 playoff games and counting. For his career, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar averaged in the playoffs 24.3 points, 10.5 rebounds, 3.2 assists, 2.4 blocks per game, which reflect his all-around game. He was a great, great scorer. For many years, he was the all-time leader in playoff points, total points, with 5,762. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar broke the mark, I believe, that was previously set by Jerry West, added on to it, retired in '89 with the record, and his record stood for 9 seasons until Michael Jordan edged it out in Game 7 of the 1998 Pacers Bulls series and then added on to it in the finals. Of course, that mark has since been obliterated by LeBron James, who's played so many damn long, drawn out playoff contests, so rebounding. The rebounding is there. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was earlier in his career a strong rebounder, but received some criticism in the 80s because his rebounding, declined, especially his offensive rebounding. A lot of it had to do with the team he played on, though. He had Magic Johnson, who was a strong rebounder for a guard, one of the strongest rebounders ever for a guard. He had other players that did that job for him, whether you're talking about, later on Michael Thompson, the father of Klay Thompson, or whether you're talking about A.C. Green, Mitch Kupchak, Kurt Rambis, Bob McAdoo wasn't a terrible rebounder. So what I'm saying is, over time, Kareem didn't have to worry about rebounding as much because he had other guys by committee who were strong rebounders. Kareem could just focus more on scoring. Kareem has always been a good to very good passer in his career. That's a very underrated aspect of his game, was his passing ability. And of course, he was at 7'2" with the big hands and whatnot. He was always a strong shot blocker. For many years, he was the all-time leader in block shots until Tim Duncan passed him several years ago. But when you look at his best years, from 1969 to '86, after '87, he really been starting to deteriorate as a player. His playoff averages increased. From '69 to '86, 27.3 points, 12 rebounds per contest, 3.8 assists per game, 2.8 blocks per game. And when you look at his absolute prime, from 1969 to 1980, ages 22 to 33, his playoff averages are insane. 30.4 points per game, 15.7 rebounds per game, 3.9 assists per game, 3.4 blocks per game, 1.2 steals per contest. And for his career, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar shot a very impressive 53% from the floor in his playoff career. Despite playing until he was 42 years old, he averaged 37.3 minutes per contest in the playoffs, and twice he led the playoffs in minutes per game. In 1979, he averaged an absurd 45.9 minutes per game. And in 1974, he averaged a ridiculous 47.4 minutes per game. This man had incredible stamina. He led the playoffs in field goal percentage just once his rookie year when he shot 56.7% from the floor overall in the playoffs. He led the playoffs in scoring 5 times: 1970, 72, 74, 77, and 83, with his highest scoring average coming in his 1970 campaign, averaging 35.2 points per game. His highest scoring average as a Laker in the playoffs came in 1977 when he averaged 34.6 points per game. PER, player efficiency rating. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar led the playoffs in PER 7 different times in his career. True shooting percentage twice in his career. Win shares 3 times. Win shares per 48 minutes 5 times. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar definitely got the job done when it came to being impactful for his particular team they played on, whether it was the Bucks or the Lakers. Though he had more help with the Lakers, so he didn't lead in as many categories by then. He led the playoffs in block shots 6 times overall, including 5 consecutive seasons in the 1970s. Now, on the surface, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar won 6 NBA championships, won 2 Finals MVPs, and appeared in 10 NBA Finals overall. As a matter of fact, in his 20-year career, there was only one season when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar missed the playoffs. That was 1975. So in 19 of his 20 years, his team reached the playoffs. When you look at this amazing, phenomenal playoff record with all of these, achievements and marks and, just off the roof production, why is he not number one? Well, to me, the one knock you could put on Kareem, and I guess this goes for most big men, but Kareem definitely had the advantage of having a great perimeter player on his teams when he was successful, when he was winning. Whether it was Oscar Robertson with the Bucks from 71 to 74 or 70 to 74, or whether it's Magic Johnson from 1979 to 89. He did have the benefit of having an all-time great player play alongside him. And when he didn't have that benefit from 1975 to 1979, individually he's putting up great, great numbers, but the Lakers never really, were a championship team. Now, that's what most centers. Most centers need some type of team around them that has some weapons, but that's a knock against him. Another knock is that with the 6 NBA championships, he was only Finals MVP twice, 1971, I believe, and 1985. Now, 1985 was very interesting because you started hearing whispers in '84. It was Kareem getting old. He was 37 at the time. In 1938, first game of that series was the Boston Massacre. The Lakers got obliterated, and Kareem looked out of sorts and looked old. People said, "Hey man, he's getting old. He's 38 years old. He needs to hang it up." And then the rest of that series, from games two onward, Kareem dominated and won Finals MVP. But you got to look at the other years, man. You got to look at 1980. Now, 1980, some people say Kareem should have won MVP that year. But the media fell in love with Magic. They loved the story. They loved the story of this young kid from from what was he from Lansing, Michigan? From Lansing, Michigan, who had the winning smile and had just won the NCAA title, goes to LA, Showtime, and when the chips were down and Kareem was hurt, he pulled a Willis Reed, and it just made for a good story. Go out there and dominate, played the center position, 42 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, and you know the media loved that story, and they switched their MVP votes from Kareem to Magic. Now the other ones, 1982, 1987, and 88, definitely it was someone else who should have won MVP. So that's a knock on him. He wasn't always, by definition, the best player on his team when they won the championships. But all in all, though, man, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is one of the all-time great fucking players, man. And I have no problem if anybody think that he's the GOAT. None. That's all I got to say on this one, man. Tell me what you guys think.